6th of January 2020. Brewing up some coffee, hitting the class. And
He's a
little bit. Say hello. With your hand. Hello. Hello. So, looking like a pretty bloody nice day in Hanoi today. Let's say it's a nice balmy 18 degrees, 20 degrees, which is completely a surprise considering that this time last year when we arrived it was grey and miserable and shitty. And should I go ahead? Sometimes I do that. I really shouldn't because I tend to piss off the security guys. Maybe they'll understand because I'm actually making a YouTube video and it's more dangerous for me to take out my access card while filming, never mind driving. It's a 10-minute drive for me from my place to my public school, and what I decided to talk about today is actually to try and recap what I am reading at the moment. So I may or may not have said before, but I am a big fan of the Kindle. The Kindle to me is more practical than a vagina. It's my first love in life. It goes with me everywhere I go, and without my Kindle I feel like a lesser man. Now, Kindle gives me access to all my newspapers, any book that I want from Amazon. They usually come in at about $2.99, $3.99, crap like that. I won't pay more than about £5 or £6 for a book, but there's loads of stuff that you can get, and it's money well spent. Anyway, the other day I was reminded of the website. There's a website that you can go to. It's the Z Library, and it's part of this new era of like free downloadable ebooks and PDF files. I went on there to find this particular book that I was looking for and ended up downloading about 20. And one of the books which I found is a completely illustrated book on history, the entirety of history. So for the next few minutes I'm going to talk about the start of mankind, the start of civilization, all the way up until Greek civilization. So let's see if I can do that between now and the time I arrive. The Homo sapiens, as we are known, have been around 165 million years. Homo sapiens are more recent, but the Homo family, bunch of gay fuckers that we are, the Homo erectus, the Homo Neanderthal, and the Homo sapien, we're all competing against each other back in 165,000 years ago. So 165,000 years ago, we left Africa and we were on the move. We moved up through Europe. From Europe, we crossed over into North America, across ice caps into North America. We crossed over into Asia, and at the time, we more or less walked over to Australia, because in or around all of this there were a number of different ice ages, a number of different climates, which would horrify any person at the moment who's afraid of the climate change we're experiencing now at the moment. 30,000 years ago we began to farm, and as soon as farming came about, we more or less saw the development of our first forms of civilization. So towns and settlements began to grow around the river deltas and places where the soil was rich and full of all the nutrients that you need. Basically all your bits and bobs that you need in order to have a good civilization. What is this guy promoting? A bit of free coffee. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Yeah, he's giving me a free copy. That's nice. So, apart from the fact that we managed to walk over to North America and walk to Australia, those civilizations weren't discovered until fucking much later. In the meantime, civilizations, towns and cities like Egypt, Mesopotamia in Turkey, and Persia were some of the first and probably most difficult to find in terms of like historical facts, to get a picture of what life was like back then. We can determine from what we have, from what we have found, that they were quite advanced, and in Greek times there's evidence of mankind making its first advances in terms of philosophy through the thinkings of Aristotle and Plato, and later then the Roman Empire, which dated from I think 300, 400 BC to its downfall in about 100, 200 CE or AD, as we say, after Christ. Will I go through the bloody tunnel? No, I didn't. So in what we have in this in terms of historical finds is evidence of the first form of thinking philosophically, thinking scientifically, and thinking philosophically. Those guys, including Homer, who was actually a Greek poet who memorized large chunks of his plays and walked from city to city. He was a beggar of forms, but Homer, who wrote the Iliad, he was originally just a Greek vagrant who went from town to town, you know, shouted out the plays that he had memorized, which at the time weren't famous, but only years later became famous because they were uncovered. Not as they were from his mouth directly, he would have memorized these things. What we have as the actual books is some of the first records of actual literature. Aristotle, who spoke about science in terms which could be easily adaptable and picked up by Christianity, and in fact became the cornerstone of what a lot of Christianity preached for hundreds of years. Aristotle set up his own school and taught Plato, who in turn set up another school, and the thinking of early Greek and Roman times became ingrained and developed. When we first started using written form, we were no longer basing our knowledge of history on myth and folklore and what was passed on from generation to generation. We can see that once we started writing down what was happening, that scholars began to document more what they were thinking and what they were learning, and this knowledge was passed around. You know, at that time Mesopotamia was the biggest civilization, and in relatively peaceful times would have traded on quite friendly terms with the Greek Empire. Here's the police on the right, not really giving a shit. I'm in the middle of a ramble and they don't care. So Mesopotamia and Greece and Persia, three of the main empires, which did go to war at many different times, but for the most part knew that trade was the key to prosperity. And there's evidence of trade agreements between Mesopotamia and Greece. At the point where Greece was overcome by the Roman Empire, Well, you had Alexander the Great, who conquered like half of the world in a mere 10 years, and he was considered and is considered the founder of that Greek Empire. That Greek Empire gave way to the Roman civilization, and in the Roman civilization we see the foundations of democracy. We hear about Cicero, who was the first and most widely recognized orator and promoter of the law and the law of principle. The war of not principle. Jesus, why is this word gone out of my bloody head? Precedent. The laws of precedent, which became integral to the operation of Roman civilization. Julius Caesar was a sneaky boy. He formed a coalition with the guy who ended up killing them in the end, but Martius Garcias or something like that. Now I can't remember his name, but he's depicted as that guy in the movie Gladiator. Remember the guy who Russell killed with the knife in the movie The Gladiator? That's the guy who was responsible for the death of Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar was a womanizer, a warrior, a leader, and most people followed him because he was a man of the people. He had a run-in with the Senate. He saw an opening. He took over the Republic, and if I'm not mistaken, that was. And we're back in school again. Let me see. Shin Lao. What can you say? Bago Cafe hops in. Bago Cafe hops in like the end, Kong. Vang? Kong? Can you say anything? Say hello, YouTube. Hello, YouTube. You can say in Vietnamese, Ting Viet. Speak in Vietnamese. Xin chào. You say it. Okay, are you happy?
No.
No, why not? What time did you get up at? What time did you get up at? What time did you wake up at?
1:30.
1:30? What time did you wake up at?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. Then what did you do?
Watch TV.
Watch TV? Brush your teeth?
Brush your teeth.
And then what did you do? And then what did you do?
I go to school
How did you get to school?
by bike.
By motorbike or by bicycle?
By bicycle.
How long does it take?
No.
How long? 1 hour? 2 hours?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? All right. Okay, say goodbye. What's your name? And ten Lazi. Anne. Okay, bye-bye, Anne. High five. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What time did you get up at?
It is
5 o'clock. And what did you do after you got up? Did you eat breakfast?
Yeah.
And how did you come to school?
I came to school. My mother motorbike.
How long did it take?
It is 30 minutes.
Wow, well done. High five. Good job. Do you want to try?
No.
What's your name?
My name is Ling.
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is
What's your favorite sport?
it's badminton.
And what's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal is dog.
All right. So what's your name?
My name is Sven.
And what do you think about Vietnam?
I think it's a beautiful capital.
Yeah? Why
Yes.
should people come to visit Hanoi?
Because it's had a lot of food, a
Yeah.
lot of place to go, and I think because it's wonderful too.
Do you think that you work hard every day?
Oh, I don't think so.
How many hours do you go to school every day?
I think it's just called 15 minutes.
No, how long do you spend in class every day?
I think 8 hours.
8 hours. How much hours do you do homework for?
I do homework about just 1 hour.
Do you get very tired?
No.
Okay, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Number 2! Number 3! Number 4! You're just saying blah, 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 blah. I'll say goodbye, teacher! What do you think of my new shoes? Anyway, that was an eventful class. The speaking activity was absolutely brutal, as is usually the case with the material that the Vietnamese schools give us to take to class. You just have to mock it up and turn it into something more comprehensible, and that's how you do it. I was... Oh, sorry, yeah, that's great, thanks. Forgot my flask. Thank you, thank you. Hold on. Yes, of course, this makes for shit viewing, but who cares, because I'm the only person that's listening to this. Maybe someday somebody will come back and start listening to it, but for now it's only me and maybe 1 or 2 other people who ever even click on it. I'm also conscious of the fact that these are turning out to be 30-minute rambles and rants, but wow, that looks nice. Somebody's having a birthday party or something. Anyway, yeah, the material was brutal. We tried to adapt it. There was no see, those little things are great. Just outside the school they set up these little eateries and sell delicious food for like 20 cents or thereabouts. There's another one. She's selling lemonade. So yeah, I adapted the material and we played some games. Anyway, what was I talking about? At the start, on my way down here, I was talking about history, but I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm going to talk about something that I saw in the newspapers that's been playing out over the last few days, about a girl who was in Ayia Napa on holidays. She alleged, right, that she was raped by 12 Israelis, and the story goes like this. She was in this place that's notorious for young Brits who head over on little shag fests. They go to these places to get pissed out of their faces and shag their brains out. So the event in itself was not surprising, and for the most part at the start of it, it was just played over, like nobody really paid much attention to it. What's happening now is that the aftermath is a diplomatic monstrosity. Let me get into the details. She was having consensual sex with an Israeli guy, and some guy apparently was recording it. Nothing too untoward about that. That's the kind of thing that happens these days. And so everything was okie dokie with her and okie dokie with the camera. At which point, apparently, 12 guys came into the room, also Israeli, and commenced a gangbang. So, one after another, the guys had their way with her. Whether it was consensual or not was disputed after the fact, and is still disputed to this point. But there was cuts and bruises on her body when she appeared at the police station hours after the ordeal. She was questioned. She wasn't given the right access to a lawyer. She was questioned for up to 8 hours and detained. She was more or less spoon-fed a statement which was later released to the press, and under duress, or what she was saying, she eventually admitted that she had made the whole thing up. The 12 Israeli guys, whether they were questioned or not, I can't remember, but they went home on the airplanes and were seen to be opening up bottles of champagne, eating caviar and partying, saying such things as the Brit is a whore, the Brit is a whore, and laughing away to their heart's content. These 12 guys who allegedly gang raped her. Meanwhile, the woman was prosecuted in Cyprus and is up in court on charges of public mischief, which carries a sentence of a maximum of 1 year plus a fine of €1,500. So not only was she, whether she was raped or not is a different issue, whether the conduct of the police in the detention of either the accused or the victims. She was the victim at first, then she was the accused. The whole thing was a bloody mess. What happened recently then, it was disclosed that there's a giant project worth about 6 billion between Israel and Cyprus, involving some type of loan to do with infrastructure, and the golden handshake between Cyprus and Israel could not be sullied by any type of media attention which would have been attracted by this. If 12 Israeli guys had been accused of raping a woman, then that 6 billion in investment could have disappeared. So knowing that this was the case, whoever was acting on the behind the scenes when this played out immediately would have told the police to release the Israelis, get them home as fast as possible, and then do that woman for public mischief and brand her as the one who's the victim, or sorry, the one that is the predator in the case. So what I was reading today is that now, you know, Boris Johnson is on the ball, seeing what's happening and screaming holy murder. Israel is, you know, going ahead with the money. They signed off on the 6 billion, and the 12 guys who may or may not have raped the women are allowed to go on with their lives. Meanwhile, this woman, I think, is still being detained in Cyprus, up on charges of public mischief. So it brought up the whole story of like, what the hell is going on over in those places where young women 16, 17 years old go over, and it's not uncommon for that kind of thing to happen. Where the hell is consent when everybody's getting hammered, everybody's on holidays, and the hotels seem to be actively advocating orgies of all kinds? I'm going to nip over for a coffee. That's what I'm doing. I was going to go into town, but I realised that Kay would probably go mental. No, I'm going to the next one. It's not where I'm going. Yeah, it's a beautiful day for it, so I thought I'd go on a bit of a cruise. Anyway, that's my rant over about that. What else was I thinking? With this YouTube malarkey, as I keep on saying, it's just me talking to myself. At the moment, it's just a blank canvas. It's me talking into a camera as I record what's going on around me, and for now, it's quite therapeutic. At the end of it all, I'll jam an old Jan Tiersen soundtrack in the background, or some type of music that tickles my chin, and away in a hack I've got like 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. Now, a lot of people will say, no bloody way would I be bothered watching something for half an hour, but I might well, in years to come, figure that it would be worthy of my time to go back and watch and listen to what I was saying and what I was thinking. As I meander, there I use that word again, as I go about my day in Hanoi. And it's interesting, you know. For those of you who don't know, and I presume nobody's watching this bloody thing anyway, but just, oh, nearly had a head-on collision there. That's what happens. Not me now, the other guy. The Grab bikes, right? So Grab works over here so that you've got your options. It's like this woman here on the back of the bike. You can get from my house into town, which takes a half an hour, for about $2.50. You can go from my house into town in a normal car for about $5 or $6. The difference is that it will take a hell of a lot longer in the car, and it's far more boring when you're stuck in bloody traffic. So if you do find yourself on the Grab bikes, and look, the thing is, like, a lot of people just say flat out they're not interested in driving a bike over here because they think it's too dangerous. A lot of teachers swear by the Grab app and won't take the risk of driving a bike. I may have said this before, but it's one of the only places left in Asia, I think, where you can just land off the plane, jump onto Craigslist, find a motorbike for 50 quid, and without any license or any experience, just take to the roads. Not a bother on you. And that's why it's one of the easiest places to come if you're trying to relocate. Hence the whole Homeless to Hanoi project. I have ranted about that before, and I will continue to rant about it again. The other day, I'm going to take a little drive over there and see what's going on. I'm actually going to do a U-turn and potentially kill myself. Just being curious, what's going on over here? That's a graveyard. That is pretty bloody cool, huh? Cool, well, that was a nice little visit to a graveyard. The boys having a bit of the afternoon exercises. Yeah, what was I talking about before I went in there? The Homeless to Hanoi project. So I was ruminating on that a little bit more while I was throwing the old sticky ball around the classroom, entertaining the kids, having a laugh while getting paid, thinking how to bring the project to its full potential, to bring it to fruition. And I had an argument, would we say, an argument of sorts with my sponsor this morning about Russell Brand, actually. Now, he said he would straight away delete any post or any mention of Russell Brand as soon as he ever saw it pop up on his social media feed. And I said, that's a bit extremist, isn't it? He said he completely disagrees with anybody who tries to make money out of AA. And he said that if I wanted to, I could go onto the internet and find hundreds of thousands of other people who firmly believe that you should never make money from AA. That's one of the traditions, is one of the cornerstones, and so be it. Russell Brand, however, has got quite a huge YouTube / social media platform, and he's using it to promote the 12-step program. He's not necessarily promoting AA, because I'm pretty sure AA will go after him for that. He may or may not be making, he made a little bit of money from the book that he wrote, but what he's trying to do is just simplify this 12-step program. If anything, it makes the big book in itself more bite-sized, more digestible, and I can't see what the hell would be the harm in somebody who's so well-spoken and also who has such a large audience to take something that is so valuable and intelligent and put it into intelligent terms, and then put a small price tag on it and sell it for 20 quid. I ended up arguing with Kay about this because she said, well, it's something to do with me and money. Like I would flippantly say, to hell with it, it's only $20. And I think most people that I know, most people that I grew up with would say, why would you even stop to think that $50 for access to a simplified version of the 12-step program is perhaps the best $50 that you would spend? But yet you have all these other people who are saying, no, it's against the bloody traditions of AA. Russell Brand is making money off AA, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, while thinking on that during class, because that's basically what you do, you shut down a part of your brain while you're teaching. You keep the kids entertained, but a lot of what goes on in the back of your mind continues to play out. Like taking a shit on a toilet. Some of your best thoughts can come into the class. I was thinking about a friend of ours who offered a position in a school that she owned down in Saigon. So me and Kay were supposed to go down to Saigon to take over a school in February or March, but it fell through because Alex had to go back to England, and the stress and headache involved in whether me and Kay could have successfully pulled off the successful management of the school. It might have been a bit of a bigger risk to her, but we did speak about the possibility of keeping the license, or at least she said that she would hold on to the license. The license to open a school here costs about 50 grand, and she has one and she's trying to sell it. Now, what I could do is I could include in the Homeless to Hanoi project as part of it, maybe try and open up my own school, and anybody who gets through the program in Mai Chau would then go directly to the school and start working there. Now, would we make some money out of it? Yeah, we would, but we put the money back into flights for other people to come over and go through the program. It would be a profitable scenario, but we take some money for ourselves, we put some money back into the project, we get people off the streets, we get people into a classroom. So I'm going to contact Alex later on today. I'm going to ask her what she thinks of the idea. For now, I'm going to go for a coffee. Xin chào. Hello, hello, how are you? Are there many fish there?
Huh?
Can you catch fish?
Yes.
Yes? Did you catch today? Oh, right. Let's see. Ah. For your dinner?
Yeah.
All right. Ciao, Viet. Where I'm gonna go for my coffee now, man. I'm gonna go for this place over here with the flowers. So, a bit of coffee there. I had a conversation there with a friend of mine called Dan. Daniel Ryder is a graphic designer over here, and he's in the, look at this guy. He's on a little mini motorbike, fucking hilarious. Excuse the language. Vietnamese flags are out. Anyway, yeah, we got talking about the Homeless to Hanoi project and how we can best go about it. Dan is going to put together a proper 5 to 10 minute YouTube video which will promote the very first part of this project. So the first step to us helping the homeless people is to make this YouTube video as an offer to 4 people, one person from Australia, one person from America, one person from England, one person from Ireland, right? Now, for people who watch the YouTube video, they're going to contact an individual person in each of those 4 places who will be the point of contact in each location, and whoever is interested will be filmed and their video will be uploaded, and then as we have enough of a following at that point, people will actually get to decide. You know, Johnny, whatever his name is over there, there's a foreigner smoking a cigarette and not a care in the world. People will decide who would the best candidates be. Anyway, by the time they get over to my chow, we would hope to have a little bit of a better crew around to make the second part of the documentary. You know, and then the third part of the documentary is when the actual guys come out of their little shell in my chow. They've spent 4 or 5 weeks in my chow, or 6, we don't know yet. They've had a good time, they're fully refreshed, they're sober as they can be, sober enough to take on the world again, at which point we put them in an apartment and we get them a job. And so the documentary will close on a high note, that the candidates that we had followed from the moment they were met on the street to the moment we left them in a nice apartment in Hanoi are now no longer homeless and are all successful, sober, happy, and making a good income. Dan was joking and laughing about how, you know, it's those kind of things that, if they're done properly, end up being sold to Netflix for like sell the show to Netflix for €1 million. How funny would that be? But yeah, you think, look, it is bloody possible. I said to him, I saw on Netflix this guy, there is actually a documentary on Netflix, that a guy who owned a farm or a ranch or some sort out in the middle of the arsehole of America set up his own little treatment center. The idea being that if you go and stay at his treatment center, you have to get up at 6 a.m. and milk the cows and bloody lift the bales and do a full day's work of farming. And at the end of it all, you qualify, you're sober, and that's his treatment program. And he had 4 or 5 guys that you got to know through the course of the documentary, with fairly similar backgrounds, all of them suffering from meth addiction or heroin addiction. And then at the end, it was just like Simon disappeared into nowhere and nobody has heard from him. Mark is still in the treatment center and has been sober for 2 years. Mary is whatever, you know, Mary had a little lamb. Whatever the hell the case is, what we were laughing about, that, you know, something like this could turn into something as successful as what that guy in America did. He opened up a treatment center and made a fortune from selling a documentary to Netflix. All we want to do is open a treatment center, get people sober, get people over here, and get people back on their feet. We're not doing it for the money, but if in between all of that there's money to be made through the YouTube channel, or there's money to be made from opening a school, whatever approach we take, all that money that we make, this is a philanthropic enterprise. This is an altruistic journey through sobriety. As my sponsor said to me this morning, I delete everything that I see to do with Russell Brand because Russell Brand makes money from AA. We're not out to try and make money from this homeless to Hanoi thing. Any money that we get, we'll be putting it into renting an apartment for people when they come out of the treatment, or getting people onto planes and getting them over to the treatment center. If we end up keeping extra money for ourselves, it's only for the small amount of effort that we go to in order to be able to do this. And I'm back at home now, so I'm going to cut it out there. But that's it in a nutshell. That's me rambling away to myself for the day. Okay, over and out, episode 11.